Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to...
There's no something like this.
Will Bruin once again. And can this be the start of something?
Will Bruin does his score goal.
Will Bruin got it! Will Bruin got the level up! Pinnacle finish!
Welcome back to another episode of Bear With Us, a podcast by Nos Audietis and Sounder at Heart. I am Jeremiah O'Shan, joined by my co-host, Will Bruin. Welcome back, Will. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing a lot better today than I was this time yesterday because it's amazing how much a Sounders win affects my mood.
I know. That's why throughout my career it was always don't get too high with the highs and don't get too low with the lows.
I know. Easier said than done sometimes, though.
Oh, 100%. You don't have to tell me.
So, okay, here's one. So after a tough loss, were you able to just put it away and like get to bed that night, or would you be up all night scrolling your Twitter feed, seeing what people were saying?
For the most part, after games, I wouldn't be asleep until like 2 a.m. just because of adrenaline and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, losses, you try to forget about it quick. Maybe you go out and grab some late night food with teammates if you're on the road, or I mean, it's different now with flying back right away. But back in the old days, you would stay the night, and you could, if the mood wasn't too bad, you could go grab a beer or something with some teammates and try to move on. But you try not to dwell on it, and the last thing you want to do is be scrolling through Twitter. And that's
right.
Both sides. That's both sides, even good and bad. So when it's good, you can't be like, oh, well, I'm warranted all the praise. Because when it's bad, you're warranted all the negativity as well. So it's better just to stay away from the social media for a night or two.
So speaking of social media, I am curious about your take on this. So Jose Martinez, he's a midfielder for the Union, apparently at halftime of the game, he sent out he updated his Instagram stories, and it was something, like some kind of insidery thing that I don't know what's going on there, but it definitely seemed cryptic and bad. What would be the react? Yeah, what would your reaction be if you were like, found out a teammate is on social media at I guess he got pulled at halftime, but
so what is like, why am I pulled type thing?
No, it was just something about getting stabbed in the back or something. Like it was like something somewhat cryptic, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and so it wasn't quite clear what he was clearly upset, but it wasn't like directed at anyone necessarily, and presumably the people that know him would maybe know what it talked about. But point being, he got pulled at halftime, got on social media and made a post. What, like, have you ever experienced something like that where a player in real time is like on social media talking about himself or the team or whatever?
Nothing that comes to mind immediately, but it's more of those things like, what are you doing? Like,
right.
I remember, it's different these days. People are on their phone in pregame. People are on their phone up until coaches' meetings before you go out for a warm-up in the locker room. It's not like it used to be just being around your teammates talking, chit-chatting, listening to music. Now it's almost like everybody's looking at their phones in their own world up until the game. But when you're emotional, the last thing you want to do is start saying stuff on Twitter or Instagram. Right. Been there, done that. So, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's get into this game yesterday. The Sounders needed this pretty badly. They played well against DC. They had nothing to show for it. But there was some positive momentum, I think, that came out of that second half. And they seemed like a different team, at least in the first half. They were flying up and down the field. It wasn't just that they scored 3 goals. They were creating chances. They looked like they just looked like a different team. They looked like a team that was almost playing with nothing to lose. What did you make of the way the Sounders looked in that first half?
I mean, overall, as a whole, from that quick little road trip, I think that's positive road trip to come back home to. But the first half in Philadelphia, they looked good. They were flying. You could tell from the beginning they were focused. They just seemed like, all right, we're here for one reason. Here's our objective: win this game, all business, no nonsense. And it got a little dicey towards the end of the game, but you know what? 3 points. Yes. 3 points.
Yeah. I mean, and especially for the Sounders, are in no position to look 3 point. Like, they're not in a position where they need to do deep introspection after any victory.
No.
Like take those 3 points and take the positives and then try to build on those. There's plenty of negatives that you can pick out if you need to, but this is not a team that needs to be reminded of its its mortality.
Yeah, and that's what I've said in previous episodes. I'm like, this team has got a lot of veterans, a lot of senior players. When it's time, push comes to shove, back's against the wall, it's like, all right, time to no nonsense, all business. And I'm not saying backs are against the wall or anything. It's still May 1st, or still
we're getting
early
close,
in the season.
though.
You know, Schmetzer's known for his summer runs, so there's time, but that's a really positive. Even the DC game before the red card, it was like, all right, this team they're ready. They're ready. They're focused. You can tell the sharpness is there, the crispness, and then the red card happens, and in the DC game, and everybody on the field's probably like, here we go again. But the second half of that DC game, I thought down a man, they created chances. They had opportunities to tie it up and things. So that was a positive to build on. I guarantee you, in the days between the two games, Schmetzer was like, hey, let's look at the positives. We were down a man. We controlled, maybe not controlled play, but we created a lot of chances. We created better chances. Let's use that to build into this game in Philadelphia. It's a long trip. We don't want to go home on a sour note. So it was I thought all in all, it was a good game. They could have put it away to start the second half, make it 4-0, take some stress out, but wouldn't be nice. Wouldn't be a nice win without some drama, right?
Right. So, you mentioned that you feel like it's still early, and it is. I mean, it's, whatever, they're 10 games into the season, not yet a third of the way through.
Well, not like early, but
right.
Still.
Yeah. Sure. No, what you're saying is there's still time, and you can go back to, you were on the Sounders in 2018. You guys had this horrific start. I think it was 3-9-3, something like that. And all you had to do was go 17-2-0 down the stretch.
Yeah, I know. See, it's easy.
Into the playoffs.
It's simple. It's a simple concept. It's a great business plan right there. Now, it does, the further it ticks along into the summer, the more stressful it can get. You don't want to have to do that. So the more points you can start picking up now, the better, because obviously the first third of the season was not what you expect from a Sounders team. It happens. So now it's like, all right, it's time to bear with us here. And like that little pun there. And let's focus.
I got you.
Good. And let's focus on the next game at hand. What's happened in the past is over. Even the Philly game, it's over with now. All focus goes to LA. So it's time to, it's game by game at this point.
So I felt kind of bad asking the question, but I felt like it had to be asked because, after the DC game, I asked Brian first, like, were your eyes open as to some players who maybe need to get more run out after that game because the second half was so good? And he basically said, yeah, like he's having to rethink some of his personnel decisions. And then I asked him, like, do you feel like you are also having to prove yourself, and like, are you worried about losing your job at this point? And he basically said, as long as the team isn't quitting, I feel safe in my position, and I don't, and until Adrian calls me into his office and says, sorry, Brian. He said he felt pretty secure, but the underlying message that he was sharing was he felt like as long as the team was clearly still bought in, was still putting in the effort, that he didn't really feel like his job was in danger. Is that a fair way for him to assess it? You think that as long as the team is clearly bought into what he's telling them, that there's just no reason to make a change?
I mean, there's no reason for him to veer from what's been successful through his head coaching career. Mm-hmm. So I would say he's almost like a creature of habit. He knows what he's good at. He knows what his team's good at, and he sticks to it. I mean, sometimes you don't want to, because when you start changing formations or changing tactics too much, it gets like, it can spiral out of control quickly. So the one thing I've really respected from him over the years is he sticks to his guns. He sticks to the way he wants to coach, and you can't argue it. It works. So, but to answer your question about the buy-in, yeah, because when you see players that aren't doing the extra work, that kind of just give up on plays, and just, you can tell they don't really care, then that's a deeper question of what's really happening here. Do they not respect the coach? Do they not care what the coach is telling them? Or is it just a personal problem? That's never been an issue with the Sounders, and I think that's why they've always been successful, because they have good professionals, good people inside the locker room, and it's always a player-driven team, and that's really important.
So when he's going back and he looks at these two games, or when you look at these two games even, what are your takeaways in terms of who should be on the field? How are you making your decisions? Because it ends up being sort of a mixed bag. On one hand, you had all these sort of like reserves step up in the second half of the DCU game, but it was a lot of the, it wasn't in, it was a lot of starters really who carried the day in the first half of this one. So I don't know, how do you go about, like, what do you think the appropriate balance is? How much lineup juggling needs to be had? And, or maybe the message is Brian just needs to get more comfortable using his whole roster, because he sometimes seems to get stuck in, well, these are my starters and I'm going to let them go as long as they can go.
I agree with that. I agree with, I don't want to put too much credence into the second half of the DC game, because that's a team, DC is DC at the end of the day. And Seattle, when it was 11s and the first team, I thought, like I said, before the red card, they were on the front foot. They were controlling the game. And then sometimes, even when you see DC score that first goal, you can see them kind of like, all right, we're back level at home. And then they score the second, and maybe they sit back a little bit. Maybe that's just human nature. Sometimes you see it where 10-man teams end up holding on 0-0, and then they get a late goal and they sweep away a win. So I wouldn't take too much. You want to get guys in that situation when you have 10, you want to get guys on the field that want to push and run and work and show that, hey, I want more time. So I think it was the right move. I think it was the right decision because it worked out. Guys, now they have a foot to lean on, be like, hey, look, I got a little confidence, a little pep in my step, but you got to be able to do that over weeks and months. So that's what I want to see from some of the younger guys and depth players is how can they do it every day at training to push the first team guys? Because, Schmetz has his guys. That's how it is. It's got that core's been there for a long, long time. So I'm not worried that those guys are worried they're all of a sudden going to lose their spot. But when you get young guys coming up the pipeline and putting some pressure on you, you start looking over your shoulder a little bit, and that's what creates healthy competition and depth in squads.
And did you like? I guess are you seeing anything that you feel like is that you're finding encouragement from, or on the other hand, that maybe you're seeing some bad habits in terms of player rotation or whatnot?
Nothing really sticks out immediately to me. I like seeing. I thought from the game last night, I thought Obed played very well in the midfield. Nice little goal from him. In the moment, I was like, oh, curl it. And he did exactly that and put it in. So it was good on him to do that. I think if you can get players like him and, Cody Baker and some guys stepping up and just showing, hey, look, you're Rothrock. You put some trust in me. I'm going to work hard off, do my best to reciprocate it. And so far it's been working. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to throw him to the fire too much. I mean, Obed's more of a seasoned guy than the other two, but that's what you need. You need those guys stepping up and putting in good shifts to raise everybody. It's like, what is it? A rising tide raises all boats type thing.
So looking ahead to the Galaxy, you just spent some time looking at the Galaxy because you're doing stuff for Austin right now.
Yeah.
Austin obviously had maybe its best performance of the season against Galaxy. Galaxy came in flying. Austin pitched a shutout. A really good performance. What did you see from the Galaxy, and what do you think the Sounders' outlook needs to be for this one?
I think, I've been high on the Galaxy all year. I think their front four is very good, but on the other side of that, the one thing I took away from that was hit them in transition. So their center backs are older. They're a good position very well, but they don't have legs maybe. So Austin's, I think it was their second goal. Alex Ring wins the ball in midfield, touch, look up, O'Brien in behind, goal. So there's a few things that I think LA is susceptible against. I think Jordan's going to be able to use his pace to get in behind. But you got to be aware of LA's front four. If you can control Payne still, I think, then he's a huge factor for that front four because he's got the pace to get the end line crosses. He's a really good player. Puig is going to do what he's going to do, Joveljic
Puig is out this game, luckily for the Sounders.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that on the broadcast. You're right. So we'll see. I don't know off the top of my head who fills in there, but Joveljic didn't play against Austin, so I think that was a big a big missing player for them because, those wingers, and they got to cross somebody that's going to be in the box. And I think Jovelic's movement in the box is very good. And he just kind of rounds out that front four. But you can be aware and control that front four. I think you can hit LA in transition for sure.
Yeah, and they have this season really struggled on set pieces. Did that prop up against Austin?
I think none of the goals were set pieces, no. But it's Austin usually, like, set pieces is always a big component in their games. And after that game, reflected on it, I was like, I don't think set pieces were as important as they had been in previous games, because I think for me, LA wants everything on the ground, wants everything to look pretty and combine, get goals that way. But set pieces are a huge part of every game. When I do my show, the Verde Lights here, previewing components, it's always I do 3 keys to the game. It's always number 3 for me is set pieces. So
yeah, you can't go wrong. I think somewhere I heard someone say that 35% of goals come from set. That seems way higher than it is in reality, but
that does seem high. Unless, depends on how they count it, like second balls,
right,
and things like that. Who knows?
Yeah, but I don't know if you're the Sounders, they are right now in the midst of just an absolutely brutal stretch of games. I think they have something like 11 games in 36 days, if you include potentially 2 Open Cup games.
Yeah.
When you're going into a stretch like this, how do you manage that? How do you manage not just the minutes, but the emotions? And how do you, do you put it into smaller pieces? What's the approach when you have just this many games in such a small amount of time?
It's a lot of games, yeah. A lot of guys are going to play a lot of minutes, and you said it was over like 30 days or something? Is that what you said?
36, yeah, the 11 games, 36 days.
So you're not going to have much time to get trainings. There's going to be the guys that aren't getting as many minutes are going to be getting just the fitness part of trainings. You're probably get a handful of like full team tactical trainings in that span, and that's tough. So you're going to have to be doing a lot of film, a lot of, in the locker room, inside, watching stuff, and that's just as important when you're recovering, because if you're playing so many minutes consecutively, you're not going to be doing heavy trainings. So you're going to be trying to recover, and recover mentally is probably more important than physically, I think, because with so many games, it can add up on you mentally. Here we go again, here we go again, here we go again, especially with games like Philly, like up 3-0 to 3-2 to have to hold on to win. But at that point, you just take it one game at a time. You deal with the aftermath after the game. So Philly game, you win, long road trip, get home, recover. I don't know what their schedule is. Today's Wednesday. Tuesday.
So
they probably got in at midnight last night,
right,
West Coast time. I would maybe take today off. I don't know what their schedule is. Whatever you're going to say.
I'm sure they're off fully today.
Yeah. But what's today's? When the game's Saturday?
The game's Sunday, so they have an extra
Sunday.
day.
So you could even take Wednesday, Thursday off, and then come in Friday, Saturday, or you could just do a quick regen, not even on the field session Thursday. Have some other guys get some training. I don't know. Not going to tell them how to do their schedule, but that's just from my experience.
Well, it's funny. Brian yesterday was asked about the recovery process from this game, and for the first time, he seemed really excited about all the new toys that they have in the recovery room. Like, he's like, well, we got cold baths, and we got saunas, and we got cryo chambers, and we got all this stuff. And it was like, okay, so maybe this is why you have that stuff, right? It's for these this part of the season that you have all these gadgets that are designed to help you recover faster, right?
Yeah, for sure. Even my last year here at Austin, they had, I'm sure it's the same, because I know Cornish he was asking Dave Tenney, who was the head of sports science at Austin, who was in Seattle. He was asking DT how the layout of the locker room was in Austin, and I don't know if they somewhat followed it, but you got hypobaric chambers, cryo, hot tub, cold tub, masseuses. Like, it's all good stuff. So if you use it, it's great, but you can't make everybody use it. It just is up to the individual player and how they want to, recover.
Were you a fan of all that stuff?
I'm an old school cold tub, and that's maybe some manual
Just
treatment.
getting an old trash can with ice.
Exactly. Yeah, just sitting, not even water, just ice.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, for all the money that gets spent on some of these contraptions, I do wonder, like, how much it actually helps. I mean, I've never been in. I am obviously not a elite level athlete.
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, I felt way better the next day. I mean, cold tubs do wake you up and they get you feeling better. But like, at the end of the day, time is your best friend. Time and nutrition, it's like your body's going to do what it's going to do. Usually for me, 48 hours was when I felt the worst after a game. But after you get that first little jog session in, it starts to move out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, yeah, the Sounders basically have this game, and then they move into the Open Cup. What do you think the attitude should be about the Open Cup? Is it, this is maybe our best chance to get into Champions League? This is maybe our best chance at a trophy. They're one of only 8 MLS teams in Open Cup, so it's theoretically more wide open than it's ever been. Or is it the same attitude as always with the Open Cup, which is, hey, if we can get a couple wins in it with our reserves, maybe we start, our mentality changes later in the tournament.
I think, when's that first game?
I think it's Wednesday.
Oh, so like
a week
like
from
right
now.
away. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, let's see how the next few league games play out. But if it's that close, I say it's not going to say easiest, but it's one of the most attainable trophies to get, because it's 4 or 5 games to win a trophy there. But I would mix and match. I don't think I would go with the big schedule coming up. I wouldn't go full first team just because of cross country flight, a lot of games, a lot of minutes. I don't think you go full on second team either. I think you sprinkle it and see what happens.
Yeah, it is Wednesday. It is in fact Wednesday. Did you like playing Open Cup games? What is as a veteran player, when you get the assignment to play in an Open Cup game, what's your mindset?
I was on the whole spectrum when I was playing a lot earlier in my career and stuff. Middle half of my career, I was like, all right, I'll play the Open Cup game. When I wasn't playing as many league minutes, I was like, all right, let's play Open Cup game. It's time to let's take it serious and get a win. So I think it just depends on the player and how many minutes they have under their belt in the season already and what they want to achieve. But it was never like, if I had a lot of minutes and I was like, I got to play Open Cup, it was never like, oh, I'm gonna, F this off. It was never like that, but it was like, maybe you're just not your preparation that day isn't as turned on as it would be for a league game type thing. But as it gets further in the tournament, then everybody starts to turn on a little bit more. And especially now the bonuses are much bigger. People take it more serious.
Does that play a significant part, though, knowing that I don't know. I think one of the big questions around the Sounders has been they insist that they take the Open Cup seriously. The lineups suggest that, I think reasonably, they make very reasonable lineup choices. To me, the Open Cup is a perfect opportunity to see, look, if we're interested in what Paul Rothrock can do, this is a great chance to see him out there.
And that goes right back. That goes right back to what we were saying about the, reserves. Some guys getting less minutes, stepping up and playing. It's a perfect chance for them to show again. Hey, look, I played a lot on the road in DC down a man. I think I want more minutes. So I'll show it here at the Open Cup.
Yeah, I always wonder if you're sending almost on one hand, I understand the desire to say, look, we're going to put our best team forward in this tournament, blah, blah, blah. But I also feel like there is there's maybe almost a negative message you're sending to your team if you say, look, we're going to play, we know we're playing a USL championship team, and we feel like we need to put our best team out there, and we don't trust our backups to get a result in this game. Like, is that a genuine concern, or do players not get that involved in the kind of lineup decision making process?
I don't think it's more like we don't trust them. I think it's more like, hey, I want to make sure we win this game. Because when you play other leagues, lower leagues, say they're going to put their best team out there and they're going to go 110%. Right. So it makes it harder. It's just harder environment regardless. That's what makes those early games fun. They're just, the competition's natural. It's not forced. It turns into like a more, here's why I deserve to be up here type thing, or other guys being like, hey, I deserve, this is my chance to show that I deserve a contract up in MLS type stuff. So it's just one of those things that sometimes maybe the younger guys aren't ready for it. Maybe they don't know how, they think it's going to be a cakewalk, and it never is.
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, these Open Cup games are fascinating sort of test cases, because you have a group of players on the other. So the Sounders are going to be playing Louisville City.
Okay.
Every player that in that starting lineup is someone who probably believes they belong in MLS.
That's a good team.
It is it's a very good team. I mean, it's one of the best teams in the USL Championship, and the gap between the best players in USL Championship and the back of the roster players in MLS is probably never been smaller than it is now.
100%. Yeah, like those, it's all filling out now, because like you could even look at back end MLS rosters and top end USL rosters, and they're interchangeable. You wouldn't know.
Right.
So like I played with Danny Cruz, and he's the coach of that team, so he knows, he's been there, he's done that. He's gonna get. And those guys, I played with Brian Ownby as a player on the team. Like these, when I was in Houston, so like these guys have been there, they know what it's like. So it's gonna be a good game, and that's what makes those fun.
Yeah, Ray Serrano. I don't know if you remember Ray Serrano.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's right. I remember he's there too. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's actually got 3 goals so far this year for them, which is kind of a fun little. And then another player they have. I don't know. Do you remember Jake Morris? He's Aiden Morris's brother. He was in the academy.
I do. Yeah.
He was in the academy. I think he maybe even did some first team training when he was with the Sounders Academy.
To a preseason. Yeah. That's funny.
So it's like all these fun little. Yeah, exactly. There's all these fun little connections that
there always is, That's what makes, like I said, that's what makes those games fun.
Yeah. Were you what was your feeling when MLS first announced that they were effectively trying to pull their first teams out of the Open Cup?
I didn't think that they would, honestly. I thought there would be. I thought it was more like a chest out type move. Look at me, we're going to pull out of this. It's like, I mean, for me, it's like, if you really want to improve the game, it's like the oldest trophy. So like, I think you have to keep it around.
Right.
And it's just like global soccer in this country. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say global in the country, but like domestic soccer at all levels. It's an equal tournament. So I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Will, I've taken up enough of your time. I appreciate you taking some time. And what do you got going on the rest of the day? You got some big yard projects you're gonna take down?
Well, it's getting overcast here. I think it might storm, so I got a busy day of just hanging out in the house today. I go check the mail, figure out what's for dinner.
The life of a retired soccer player.
Yeah, big decisions. Maybe some Mario Kart.
Ooh. All right.
A
full day.
Exactly. Busy day. Busy day.
Well, it was a joy catching up. We are going to try to do this on a semi-regular basis, at least until you get like busier and you don't have time for us anymore.
We'll do it until we don't. So
exactly. Well, Will, thanks for doing this. This is Bear With Us. I'm Jeremiah Shan signing off for Will Bruin, and we will catch you next time.
Yeah.
We love you. Let's win another one.